share with you my top 10 favorite guitars of all time. Now, just going to give a brief rundown of how I'm going to be ranking this. One major reason. That one reason is very based on how I kind of experienced their music and how I kind of just like stumbled my way into like finding this guitarist and certain like album or band that like they were affiliated with at the time, and obviously how they inspired and shaped the way I am and play as a guitarist. But yeah, just a little brief rundown of how you can expect my list to go. But yeah, let's just jump right into it. And my number 10 spot is going to be a very underrated guitarist that does not get any as much of respect as it should. But Alex Lifeson of Rush at my number 10 spot. Alex Lifeson had a very obscure way of playing, more of a obscure technique that I really enjoy listening to throughout their Rush discography. But it's sort of more of an odd timing. Like you can listen to Spirit of the Radio, where he goes into the main riff after the bridge, like slightly before the solo, and where he does that part. I'm sure I'll do a video about it. But yeah, that part in those certain little songs like Fly By Night, Spirit of the Radio, Red Barchetta, those odd timing, obscure songs, I really enjoy listening to. He had a very really nice, sharp, crunchy tone that I enjoyed listening to. Like I said, he had a great discography. I mean, the first 8 Rush albums were absolutely perfect, absolutely incredible. I love listening to all those albums all the way through. It was just a really great experience. But yeah, I really think he's a very underrated guitarist. He doesn't get talked about a whole lot when you get brought up to some of the greatest guitarists of not only the '70s and the '80s, but like of all time. But I personally think that Alex Lifeson definitely deserves to be up in the top 15, top 10. But yeah, my number 10 spot, Alex Lifeson. My number 9 spot is going to be very self-explanatory, and you'll know exactly why he's in my top 10. Dimebag Darrel of Pantera. Dimebag, we lost him very sadly in 2004 due to Craig's fan and the murder and everything. It is just a very terrible story about how that everything happened. He had a lot of potential to do great things in the future, and it's just a very sad story. And just he had a very short discography with Pantera. He had Cowboys from Hell, The Great Southern Trendkill, Far Beyond Driven, Lord mercy, what's that other album called? Oh, sorry, Vulgar Display of Power. Forgot a minute, sorry. But yeah, Dimebag had a very short discography, but it was an era-defining moment for that band in the '90s to sort of bring that new alternative metal into, like, I know they went from like hair metal to like changing their ways into being more alternative, as it would be in the '90s and everything. How it went from like hair metal to grunge, and hair metal sort of like slowly died out. But yeah, all the metal songs and the albums and that riffs and everything he put together just sounded really good. Like Alex, he had a sharp, very high pitched, crunchy tone that I really enjoyed listening to. Another obscure technique, I think his best thing that he did was Domination, uh, from Cowboys from Hell, released in 1990. But that like technique he used throughout those albums was absolutely like mind blowing, because I love listening to that more of an odd timing sort of like tempo and like key changes and everything. I just think it sounded great, and I think Dimebag definitely is one of the greatest guitarists of all time. And it is very sad, and he would be very missed by the metal community and people in general. But yeah, my number 9 spot, Dimebag. My number 8 spot, I believe that's 8, sorry, Ritchie Blackmore of Deep Purple and Rainbow. He was one of the early metal guitarists that kind of like shaped what we know metal as today. Um, he is sort of he's mid. He's average, as in like he'll be put in a top like 20 or a top 10 a greatest guitarist of all time, but like you'll never like you bring it up to anybody, nobody's gonna say Ritchie Blackmore, which is sad because Ritchie Blackmore really dang good guitarist. Stargazer, I mean, Jesus, literal Christ, I don't even know how to explain it. Stargazer is just an experience that is absolutely incredible. I loved going through that the first time. That's one of the songs I'd actually go back and experience the first time all the way through. He had a great tone, and he worked with a lot of great musicians over the past, like the time span of being a Deep Purple and Rainbow with the Dio, and being a Deep Purple with Ian Gillan. But yeah, I really enjoyed listening to all the stuff with Ritchie Blackmore on it, and like all the stuff with Ritchie, just in general. But yeah, my number 8 spot, Ritchie Blackmore. My number 7 spot, which is going to be kind of like 2, but it'll make sense. Iron Maiden, Dave Murray, and Adrian Smith. at my number 7 spot. Incredible, absolutely incredible harmonizing and dueling solos. I mean, the Rhyme of the Ancient Martyr, Where Eagles Dare, Invaders, all those songs that they've like merged together and just like created, and like another song is Phantom of the Opera which I did a video on a couple days ago. Just really really good, and another two guitarists that never get really talked about, but very underrated, and overall just like put themselves in like stone as some of the greatest like staples of metal. But yeah, I think my favorite album by Iron Maiden and by them was probably Peace of Mind. It had Where Eagles Dare, Revelation, Die With Your Boots On, The Trooper, obviously. Just two really solid, great guitars that I think are not talked about a whole lot and that are really, really good. So yeah, my number 7 spot, Dave Murray and Adrian Smith. My number 6 spot is going to be completely obvious on why this is on my list. The Tony Iommi, great, the Tony Iommi, the great Tony Iommi, the father of metal, in my opinion. Obviously, he created heavy metal with Ozzy and Bill Ward and Geezer. All those riffs from the first 8 albums he released with Ozzy, and obviously Heaven and Hell, Mob Rules, and Born Again, all those songs are as metal as you could possibly get. I mean, the first album he created was more of a bluesy hard rock mixture, which then would become like what would be metal, like in Paranoid and Children of the Grave and Master of Reality and all that. But yeah, really 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 good guitarist. His solo of rhythm on just everything he's ever done has absolutely been really really good. And you got to take into consideration that he only has like 9.5 fingers because of the accident at the steel mill he had. He sliced the tips of his fingers off, but I think it was like plastic and rubber he put together to make fingertips, and he had to use thinner strings so it wouldn't hurt. But yeah, Tony Iommi definitely is like, that's the most metal story you could possibly get. Like, oh, I sliced my fingers off in a steel mill, and I had to make rubber tips, and I literally created a genre. I mean, Jesus Christ. Story of metal in a nutshell. Absolutely incredible. Number 6, Tony Iommi. My number 5 spot, which we're getting into the really good guitars. Number 5, obviously, the taken away from us way too soon because of something stupid, like drugs, Jimi Hendrix. At my number 5 spot. Absolutely a legend. He had a very short discography. He only had Axis Bold Love, Are You Experienced, Electric Ladyland, I think a few more albums that I can't name off the top of my head. He was definitely one of the big four of the psychedelic rock and just like blues in that era, like the late 60s and 70s. Like, he had the Doors, Janis Joplin, Hendrix. I mean, all those absolutely incredible. I love that psychedelic rock sound, that blues sound. He has awesome style playing, and I think it's cool that he got a right-handed guitar and he made it to, because he was a left-handed player, he made it into a left-handed guitar. I think that's awesome what he could do with just the tricks and everything. Obviously, he set his guitar on fire and played with his teeth. I mean, it's absolutely legendary. I mean, you can't get better than Jimi Hendrix at that time. But yeah, my number 5 spot, Jimi Hendrix. Number 4 spot, which is one of the first like 5 guitarists that I've ever been inspired by, Zakk Wylde. He's been in 3 of the most metalist metal bands you could possibly ever think of when you think of metal. Ozzy, Black Label Society, and Pantera, which he just recently joined. But he had an incredible discography. I mean, he had the albums he had with Ozzy, and obviously The Blessed Hell Ride, and a few other albums with BLS. And obviously he's doing stuff with Pantera right now, and being a support act for Metallica on the M72 tour, which I think is really cool. I would love to see Metallica with Pantera. It'd absolutely be incredible. But like I said, he has an incredible tone. He's one of the first guitarists to inspire me. Obviously, there was Randy Rhoads, Jimmy Page, which I'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, number 4 spot, Zakk Wylde. My number 3 spot is Kirk Hammett from Metallica. The guitarist and the band that created thrash metal and what we know it as today. He still holds up great. Like I said, he's still touring, and like Pantera's touring with them as well, and Five Finger Death Punch and Greta Van Fleet. But yeah, he still holds up and he still plays very solid, considering the fact that they're almost 60 years old. And yeah, he had an incredible discography. Almost everything he's done with Metallica has absolutely been perfect. I mean, it's great. I think the greatest thing he's done put together was probably Master of Puppets. My favorite's obviously Kill 'Em All, but yeah, tell me what you guys think the best thing these guitarists I've noted so far the best. But yeah, my number 3 spot, Kirk Hammett. My number 2 spot is the legend Jimmy Page. Absolutely incredible guitarist. I think he was like one of the bands that like sort of like kind of emerged into like I think the top 3 that have made metal at the time was Zeppelin. I know people like differ on that, but like you got to think Led Zeppelin 2 was heavy. Is I don't even know. It was just heavy as crap. I loved it. Obviously, and then Sabbath, and then Deep Purple. All those 3 bands kind of like immortalized as like the holy trinity of what made metal at the time. But he had a beautiful tone with a just an awesome just like story, very bluesy and very heavy. I really enjoyed listening to everything he's ever made with not Sabbath, Zeppelin. I think he's one of the best of all time. Obviously, I think the best thing he's ever done was Led Zeppelin 2 and Led Zeppelin 4 and Houses of the Holy. Obviously, Stairway to Heaven's been noted as one of the greatest songs of all time. It's been up there with Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. Brian May is a very underrated guitarist too, but that wasn't in my top 10 favorite. But yeah, my number 2 spot, Jimmy Page. My number 1, which has been stated in multiple, and I'm talking multiple videos. I'm wearing a shirt right now. I literally got many posters and many albums of the same exact thing. Got one right here. Got one right here. The legendary, one and only, Randy Rhoads at my number 1 spot. Randy Rhoads is perfection when it comes to rock and metal music. It's hard to put into words of how legendary he was and how short of a time he just created and immortalized himself as the greatest metal guitarist, rock guitarist of all time. I think Ozzy said it best. I know he was taken away from us on March 19th, like 40-something years ago. I believe it's 41, if I'm not mistaken, 41. But I do think Ozzy said it best. Randy Rhoads will never die in my heart, and he'll always be there, always. God bless Randy Rhoads. Which I have something in mind for a video coming up in October, so stay tuned for that. Y'all won't know, because it's a surprise. It's big, though. Y'all will really enjoy it. I'm very excited. Randy Rhoads, beautiful, hypnotizing, gorgeous, sharp-sounding, just incredible playing and tone. I mean, it's just absolutely... I have no words to describe how perfect and awesome Randy was as a guitar player and as a person, obviously. He was very humble and very just... You can tell he loved what he was doing. He had a passion, and I think he said in an interview, he said, "I'm very proud and honored, and I don't want to stop here," and it still makes me very sad to know that he was taken. So imagine what he could have created. I mean, he could have went back with Quiet Riot and made more albums. He could have stayed with Ozzy and made more albums. He could have went to classical music school and got better at guitar. Better at guitar. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. Randy Rhoads, the greatest of all time, in my opinion. Tell me what you guys think. Comment your top 10. Thank you guys for watching, and I really enjoyed sharing this with you. I'll put my honorable mentions that didn't make it into the top 10, but are definitely my top 15 in the description. But besides all that, thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, comment what you think, and obviously like the top 10 and everything. Hit the notification bell to know when I release new videos and posts. But yeah, besides all that, that's the end of the day's video. See you next time.